Hi, Talita. I am going to read to you a story about Labor Day. It's not really a story, it's more of a factual book about what Labor Day is. To be very honest, this book, Labor Day, written by Geoffrey Scott, Carol Honda is the publishing company. This book, was written 68 years ago. Can you believe that? We've had this book in the Toledo Library for all that many years. It was copywritten 1952. I just find it very interesting. No matter how long ago it was written, it's still the truth about what Labor Day is. We are getting ready to celebrate Labor Day on Monday. What is Labor Day? Let's read together and find out. Every year on the first Monday in September, we celebrate Labor Day. Labor Day marks the end of summer. It is celebrated all over the USA. But why is it called Labor Day? What exactly are we celebrating? We have not always had a Labor Day. It's not a very old holiday at all. The first Labor Day was held only about 100 years ago. So you guys remember? Add 68. The first Labor Day was celebrated 168 years ago. It was not called Labor Day then. It was not celebrated all over the country either, only in New York City. To labor means to work. In 1882, many kinds of workers lived in New York City. Carpenters, bricklayers, furniture makers, printers. Most of them liked their work. They were proud of their skills and of all the things they made. But there were many things they did not like. Most of them had to work long hours. Many worked 12 or 14 hours a day. And they didn't get weekends off. They worked 6 and sometimes 7 days a week. Often they worked in places that were not safe. Today, if you worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week in a dangerous place, you would be paid a lot of money. But in 1882, that was not the case. Workers then were paid very little. They were paid so little that many families needed their children to go to work. So by the time they were 11 or 12, many children were already working. So those 6th graders that are at Paris Middle School, 7th graders, they'd be working. They were lifting heavy rolls of cloth 10 hours a day in a factory. Or they were digging coal 6 days a week. No worker was happy about these things, but one person alone couldn't change them. So in the 1880s, New Yorkers began to form groups called craft unions. Perhaps many people working together could change the things that one person could not. At first, each craft had its own union. The bricklayers had their union, the carpenters had theirs. Then many of these small unions joined together. They formed a larger union called the Central Labor Union. The CLU was in turn part of an even larger group. The larger group was called the Knights of Labor. The Knights of Labor fought like the knights of old, but they didn't fight with swords. The Knights of Labor fought with words and votes. They fought to get children out of the factories and mines. They fought for better pay. They fought for safer places to work. Many of the workers in New York had not been born in the U.S. They or their parents came from other countries. In their old countries, workers had special holidays. Each craft had its own day. The carpenters had their day, the bricklayers had theirs, the printers had theirs on their holiday, the workers got the day off. They went on picnics, they held parades to show how proud they were of their work. But the U.S. had no workers' holiday. Many workers in New York City missed the old way. They wanted a workers' holiday in their new country. They told their thoughts to the Central Labor Union, and on May 14th, 1882, the New York City CLU decided to hold a monster labor festival. The festival could take place in early September. The weather would still be warm then, and it would make a holiday between the 4th of July and Thanksgiving. There would be a parade and a picnic. Everyone would have a good time. They could show people how proud they were of their work. They could show how angry they were about their working conditions, too. We are not sure who had the idea for the festival. Some say it was Peter J. McGuire, a carpenter from New York City. Others say it was Matthew McGuire. He was a machinist in New Jersey. We do know that both men worked hard on the festival. Plans for the festival were made. A park was found for the picnic. The union got permission from the police to hold a parade. Finally, the festival date was set, Monday, September 5th, 1882. By June 11th, 1882, the CLU had sent out 20,000 tickets for the festival. Everything was ready. There was only one question. Would anybody come? There had never been a day like this in America before. Would people be afraid to try something new? Would they be afraid of losing their jobs? July passed, then August, and still many craft unions had not said whether or not they would be coming. Would the festival succeed or fail? No one was sure. At last, it was September 5th at 10:30 a.m. Workers lined up to start the parade. The Grand Marshal was William McCabe. He was the leader of the CLU. He was riding a fine horse. He would lead the parade. But when McCabe looked at the marchers, his heart sank. Only a handful of workers were ready to march. McCabe started the parade anyway, but the Labor Festival looked like a big flop. Usually traffic stops for a parade, but the workers' parade was very small. No one stopped for them. The marchers had to dodge around streetcars and wagons. McCabe had to work to keep the little parade together at all. Suddenly, the marchers heard music. It was coming from a side street. It got louder and louder. Who could it be? It was the jewelry workers, 200 of them. They came to join the parade, and they brought their own brass band. The music raised everyone's spirits. A few blocks later, the bricklayers joined. They had a brass band too, and after the band came some horse-drawn wagons. See, the horses were guiding the wagons. In the wagons were brick steps, walls, and windowsills. The bricklayers were proud of their work. They wanted to show it to everyone. Brass band means brass instruments. Soon more workers were coming. Some had planned to join the parade as it went. Others were just late. The parade got bigger and bigger. Grand Marshal McCabe was now riding in front of 10,000 marching workers. Several bands were playing loudly. Traffic came to a stop. Thousands and thousands of people were watching the parade. They cheered and clapped. They waved handkerchiefs. Many of the workers were wearing their work clothes. The machinists wore their aprons. The carpenters wore their tool belts. The printers wore their paper caps. Many of them were carrying signs. The signs told everyone watching what the workers wanted to change. Shorter hours, fair pay, says the CLU. Stop child labor. After the parade, the marchers joined their families. Then they went to Elm Park. Nearly 50,000 people filled the park. Everyone had brought picnic lunches. Speakers talked about how important the workers were. They talked about how to start unions. They talked about ways to end child labor. After the speeches, the bands played. People sang and danced. Fireworks went off. It was a grand day to end a grand celebration. The first Labor Day in 1882 started out slowly. The leaders worried that no one would come. But when the day was over, they knew it had been a great success. There was only one thing they didn't know. They started a national holiday. Workers all over America liked the idea of a workers' holiday, so the idea spread quickly. By 1889, 400 cities had Labor Days like the one in New York City. Several states passed Labor Day laws. Oregon was first. Colorado, New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts soon followed. By the 1930s, every state in the U.S. celebrated Labor Day. As Labor Day spread, workers solved many of their problems. Laws against child labor was passed. Work days were made shorter. The workers had been right. By joining together into unions, they were able to change things that one person alone could never have changed. Workers today face new problems. Factories are safer than they used to be, but new machines cause new safety problems. So unions continue to work hard to keep factories safe for their members. Unions make sure their members are paid well. Unions help their members in many ways. We celebrate Labor Day to honor American workers. We think about how working hard helps make our country strong, and we remember that all workers are important, no matter what their job. And that is the story of Labor Day, and it got me very excited, and it makes me proud to be a librarian and a worker, and it makes me think of all the people who are out there working, making our lives safe and helping us get smarter, and it's just a great thing to celebrate. So when you're enjoying your day off on Monday, please give a thought to all of the people out there employed and working. Bye.